Welcome to the Momnesia podcast, a podcast for moms where we share the stories we want to remember and the ones we wish we could forget. We're your hosts, Julie Short and Sarah McLaughlin.
Everybody. Hey, Julie.
Hey, Sarah.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
It's been quite a week.
It has. Oh, my goodness. You guys have totally exceeded our expectations.
Yeah, I'm beyond grateful, and we've had all this swirling around in our minds and our hearts, but I had high hopes, and it really did exceed what I was desiring. So I'm super thankful. And, we've only our launch was like not even barely a day ago.
Yes.
So one day in, we're very thankful. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thanks for joining us so far.
And we've received so many kind notes and reviews and emails and text messages. You guys are the best. We have the best. Exactly. We have the best tribe out there.
Yes, we do.
You guys are the best.
So with that, I've got lots of questions from people, and some of them have been repeat questions. Have you been getting any frequently asked questions?
I have been getting some questions.
So one of the main ones is people that are they're seeing things, or they're going to hop on and listen to a little bit. They're like, okay, so give me in a sentence or two, what is Momnesia exactly?
So we are wanting to create a space for moms to share stories, funny, sad, mundane, something that we can all connect with. And they kind of take the format of one we want to remember and one we wish we could forget. Mm-hmm. And so we are reaching out to a variety of moms from all different walks of life. And we really just want to preserve those stories. And we feel like this podcast format is the best way to go about doing that. And Sarah, I know we're talking to moms, but do you have to be a female to listen to this show?
Well, that's one of the main questions I've been getting, and actually getting because I had some friends who listen and were like, I really like this and I want to keep listening. And I'm not a woman, but I have ears. I'm like, that's awesome. And there were a couple of people that wrote on our Facebook, Momnesia Podcast Facebook page, and sent messages that are guys that were like, I thought I would be listening to this, and it's a great way to understand my daughters or my wives or my mom or just the women in my life. But there was a lot that I really enjoyed or found funny, or things that challenged me to think about this or that. So that was a huge encouragement. So it's for, anyone. There's a lot of female issues, mom issues, stories, whatever, but I'm glad to see that more people have resonated with it than just moms.
Totally. And people that don't even have children. Yeah. So there's a little something for everyone, but it's definitely going to be going through the lens of our motherhood journey. So we are grateful for anybody who's willing to listen and check us out.
Yeah. And let's see. The other, I think, main question is, well, how often are you going to do these? Because we released with 3. So what's next?
Yes, we are learning as we go in this podcast biz. And so right now, in order to keep our sanity, we are doing 2 weeks at a time, with the idea or hope that maybe somewhere in the future, we may get it down to a science and be able to release maybe once a week.
Yeah. So every 2 weeks for now.
And there are other ways that people can engage during those off times. We do have the Facebook community that we'd love for people to join us on. We do have a blog and on the website at momnesiapodcast.com. So we encourage you to check that out. On the off weeks of the podcast, we'll be releasing a blog post. We already have a few on there already, so make sure to check those out. And then also Instagram and Twitter. So we have a variety of places that we're going to be reaching out to you, and we want you to be a part of it. So if there are ways that you would like to engage with us, hop on the website and share your story. That's the button that you will want to push to be able to fill out just a little email to us and tell us how you would like to get involved, whether you'd like to be a podcast guest, a blogger, or even posting some of your stories on Instagram for us.
So Julie, let's catch up a little bit before we bring on our guest.
Let's do that. What's been going on with you, Sarah?
something that actually in this interview we're going to do with Robin in a moment, she mentioned, and I wanted to kind of stay on for just a minute, is she talked about the 3 different brackets that she's in, having kids of different ages. And man, we are in the thick of it with that.
And when you say brackets, you kind of mean like teenage, middle school, young child, or whatever range that might be?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we're in this stage where someone is always awake. There are little people that like to get up early, and then we may get to the end of the day, and that kind of old thing of when we put the kids down at 7 or 7:30 and we hang out as adults. I mean, that's just like gone. Our kids can outlast us, the older ones. And they are mean Scrabble players.
They are. They want to stay up all night playing Scrabble.
Joseph's big word last night was like a triple word, kelp.
Whoa.
And I thought he guessed, and he was like, this stuff in the ocean. I was like, okay, so you do know what that is.
All right, Joseph.
But it's not at all a complaint. It's just I really want to enjoy this time. And it's hard to navigate it because I don't know how to do things that are fun and edifying for 3-year-olds and 11-year-olds. And I feel like our pace is crazy. I mean, it's like I'm even tonight trying to ignore my phone as we're talking while knowing there's one person that's grabbing the ride for the volleyball game and one person that's got another kid for this thing. And like, I feel very divided in those different brackets. And I've asked my sweet grandmother, I try to ask, and poor thing, she doesn't really remember a lot, to be honest. But most of the time, people that are, generation or 2 out from having young kids at home, they'll be like, oh, I don't know, but just enjoy it. It goes so fast. And I love that. And I think it's so sweet. But I also think I'm asking because I want to enjoy it now too. Like it's overwhelming, and I would love to know how to help navigate it. So you're asking because you want some strategies. Like I want some strategies. Like, give me the book, give me the atlas, and I will drive the road you say.
Yeah. Just tell me what to do. I will do it.
Right. So it's good. I heard a personal challenge from someone just a few weeks ago to not answer any prompt of how you're doing with the word busy or tired.
Oh, I am so guilty of that.
Yeah.
I always say I'm busy.
Yeah. That's just really hard to do. Like
it is.
Honestly, we're both of those. And I don't know what else there is.
Are there things other than busy and tired?
I mean, I know it's joyful and there are challenging moments and all that stuff, but yeah, we're very much in that November season. All the sports are going, lessons, school stuff, my busiest time of work with music and concerts and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm already tired and I'm so busy. So now what?
Yep. And I've read similar things like what you're talking about, like saying, the busyness, what does that mean? And sometimes we equate busyness with important. So I've got lots of important things that I'm doing.
I'm so important.
Yes. And that somehow that's like a badge of honor. Like the more busy you are, the more full your life is, the
more productive or successful or something even.
Yeah. So how do you balance that busy with being engaged in your community, being engaged in your children's life?
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard. So go ahead and text us your answers.
Yes.
Email us your answers, Facebook, tweet it, whatever, Insta.
Yeah. Hello
when you have the solution,
momnesiapodcast.com.
Here's how you do it.
If you know the answer to that question, we would love to have you as a guest on our podcast.
Right.
I'm totally kidding. That's not what this podcast is about. We do not have answers, folks. We just have stories.
We just have stories. Yep.
And hopefully they make you laugh and cry along the way.
Right.
One of the highlights of our past week, which is something that I feel like when I tell people, I do get a few of those looks, but it was something that we had been counting down the days for. We took our kids on the opening night, which was a school night, to see the new Bohemian Rhapsody movie.
I love that you took your kids.
It's PG-13. I have a 6-year-old.
Right.
But Matthew is obsessed with Freddie Mercury. So he's got these fake mustaches that he wears and a white tank top.
Okay. I saw a picture of him in the white tank.
Yep. And he likes to get wristbands and like wear them up on his arm like
Tight
Freddie
pants.
did. Oh yeah. Some tight jeans. He also likes to wear like the athletic kind of like Adidas looking pants. And he's really set after seeing the movie that he wants to get a belt. I think it's like a studded belt.
Okay.
So I'm on the lookout for a studded belt.
Okay.
But I mean, he loves it. And then ever since we've been home, Mary Kate a few years ago wanted to take piano lessons.
Okay.
So we got a keyboard for Christmas. She took her lessons for like a year or two. And then she's like, yeah, I'm done with this. So this thing has just been sitting in the corner. And when Matt saw that Freddie Mercury plays the piano, I can't get that kid off the piano now. Well, we just have the keyboard. And so then whatever that like embedded beat is,
Right.
boom, boom, oh my goodness. So he's playing that at the top of the lungs and then just banging on it and singing, you know, we are the champions or whatever. And so now he's begging me, Mom, can I take piano lessons? Can I take piano lessons?
Awesome.
So yeah.
Is he singing Fat Bottom Girls?
Yep. He loves Fat Bottom Girls.
I love it.
So Sarah, when we were brainstorming names of people we would love to have on the podcast, right away, my mind went to Robin Anderson.
I remember.
Robin is a dear friend, and she is the type of friend that you may not see for like 5 years, but the moment you meet back up, you're instantly back in that same spot.
Yeah.
And I just adore her. She is so gracious and warm, and she and her husband, Matt, are just dear friends. And so I definitely wanted to reach out to her right away.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because before we bring her on, I just have to say, you know, we connected with Matt and Robin because, well, Robin and Jeff went to school together.
Yes.
Like
Go
high
Scots.
school, probably even before. And, but we connected because I came out a number of times to lead worship at the churches they were at. And actually, as much as I enjoyed that, it really, truly, I loved that. I loved the times that we would get to go out to eat. And it was like pre-kids for us. And I don't know where their kids were, but they made time for us. And went out on the town, and like, I felt the same way, and I hardly knew her. So I loved those moments, those conversations. And like every time we'd come and be like, well, Robin's going to be there, right? So
if you are at a party, you want Robin there with you.
yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go get her and bring her on. Hey, Robin.
Hey, guys.
Hey, girl.
Welcome to Momnesia.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and really honestly humbled to be here that you would ask me to be on this podcast, and super excited about it.
Good. We're so glad. And you're actually Skyping in from, tell us where you are.
Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yay.
Yep. Yeah. Sunny Arizona.
Oh, we're just getting into that fall, windy, blustery weather here.
Yeah.
We're just getting into that. This is why we live here, Arizona season. Yeah.
Through the summer.
Yes.
Jealous.
Yes.
Well, tell us, Robin. Obviously, we know and love you, but our listeners do not. So tell them a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your family and your professional life.
Okay. Well, my husband, Matt, and I have been married 20 years now.
Not believe that.
Woohoo.
20 years. And we have 3 boys. Our oldest is 17. He's a senior in high school this year. Yeah. And then Calvin is 14. He's in 8th grade. And then our youngest is 8 years old and in 3rd grade. Still super, super sweet little one. So it's fun. We joke that we're parenting in 3 different age brackets. It's fun and difficult and hard and awesome. So that's our family. My husband and I are in ministry together. He is the lead pastor at our church out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And as far as being involved in ministry, I help lead worship and I help with our women's ministry. I love doing that. I felt called to ministry as a young girl, as a teenager. And so that's super fulfilling to me to work alongside with Matt. But I don't work here as a salary. I just volunteer at church. I have a real job. That I work for a nonprofit here in Arizona. It's we award tuition scholarships to kids who attend private school. A lot of these kids are attending special needs schools, and so those tuitions are super high. And so it's a huge blessing for me to be able to really work with these families and for our organization to walk alongside them and financially support them.
That's cool. So, what's the name of the organization?
It's called Arizona Private Education Scholarship Fund. Okay. And I've only been working there for a year and a half. For the last 16 years. Before then, I was a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. And so it's kind of this new, exciting time for me. I loved being a stay-at-home mom, felt super blessed that I was able to do that. But then we started having teenagers and insurance payments and car payments.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So I was ready. Charlie, our youngest, started school full time. And so all three boys were in school. And so I was ready to do something. Yeah. It came along and it's been a huge blessing to me.
That's awesome. So,
I don't know if you remember this, Robin, but when Mary Kate was born, Robin was one of those wonderful women that brought me a casserole or something to eat. It was super yummy.
You and bless those women.
Exactly. Robin, when I was pregnant with Mary Kate, came to one of my showers and she gave me this pink leather date book. And she said, there are so many things that you're going to want to capture, but sometimes a full journal page can just seem daunting and overwhelming.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it was is basically a calendar, but used it as a journal just because you could just write down 2 lines and feel like you filled up the entire space. Yeah. And so that was something that I did for a long time. I am an awful journaler. And, that was something I could do. Okay. And that's so cool. I really appreciated that gift.
Oh, that's cool. I'm glad you did that. I tried to do that too. I look back at those old journals that I kept and it was once a month or, but it's hard when we have little ones. It's the last thing you want to do is record the day. But there are those sweet moments that are those sweet little words that they say that you don't want to forget.
Well, in some ways, I think social media has replaced it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll be like, oh, I don't want to forget this story and it's so funny. I'll just go ahead and share it with everybody.
Yeah. So that way it'll pop up in my memories.
Right.
The next year.
I just actually saw Time Hop today, that a year ago today, I was in Phoenix for the first time ever. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go back there so badly. And I know everyone said, well, just wait for summer. But hey, I was there in November and it was spectacular.
I will take the summer. Yeah. It is worth it.
Yeah.
It is.
It is worth it. We love it here. And that's huge for me to say because I did not love it here for our first few years. Yeah. But just the outdoor stuff, you can hike, you can go an hour and a half north and go skiing in the mountains. You can get to the beach in 5 hours. It's really a great place to live.
That's cool. Well, so of course we want to hear from you kind of the meat of the show, which is the story you want to remember and the one you wish you could forget. And where do you want to start us off? Which way you want to go first?
I'll start with, let's do the bad news.
Okay.
Forget.
Okay. We're all
okay. Well, it's funny because I felt like I could probably come up with more I wanted to forget than I remembered.
We're hard on
probably because they were traumatic, right? Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about my firstborn. And when first of all, let me just say that I hate middle school.
Okay.
I hated it when I was in middle school. And I just, I do not like middle school. They're such hard years. Did you guys have a hard time in middle school?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did, but I felt like high school might have been harder for me.
Oh, really?
Really?
Okay.
So I just want to preface it with that the middle school years raising kids have been hard for me and for my kids. And so someone once told me that you're only as happy as your unhappiest child.
I've heard this before.
I have not heard that.
And I feel it. Like when your kid is sad or down, you feel that for them. In fact, just yesterday, I was like, I could hardly eat dinner because one of my kids was having a hard time. And like, I was like, get a grip, Robin. But you just feel it, So anyway, back to my story I want to forget. So Connor was around middle school age, and we had just noticed a change in behavior, and that wasn't typical for him. He still is a very compassionate child. Even though he's 17, he's not really a child anymore, but, but he just has a sensitivity and a heart for people and very compassionate. And I was just noticing a shift in his behavior and how he would respond to us as parents. I felt like we were getting in fights, and I was like, what is going on?
Right.
And it was difficult, and I kept thinking, oh my gosh, is this who he is? Is this who he was before? That's not who he is. He's not compassionate. He's not kind. He's angry, and that's who he's going to be from now on. And I was just beside myself because he's our firstborn, never parented before. And so
it was scary.
It was scary. Yeah. And, also I always thought, we have 3 boys. And so I thought, oh, this will be awesome when we get to middle school and high school because we're not going to have the drama. Like we have the little boys who run around and have a lot of energy when they're little. And then the payback is when they're older, there's no drama. There's no crazy hormones. Well, there are hormones.
Right.
Surprise.
It just was so unexpected to me, the anger that would all of a sudden pop up so it was, I just thought, well, maybe this is hormones kicking in. And so it just kind of escalated and escalated. Months went by, and we could not figure out. He kind of keeps to himself. He not keeps to himself. He doesn't like to really share his heart with you. He's not going to be like, well, this is what's going on, So finally, one night, it all came to a head, and we had gotten in I guess kind of an argument, and he ran to our master closet and kind of holed up in our closet. And so Matt walks back there, and he's like, Connor, you gotta tell us what's going on. I thought, is he being molested? I didn't know. The behavior was so off. And so Connor's like, I'm not going to talk. And Matt's like, well, we're not leaving this closet until you do. And so finally, Connor tells us that he feels like he's being bullied at school. And I'm, oh my gosh. I said, well, what's going on? And Connor is a great athlete. And so he said, well, when we're at recess or when we're outside and we have free time and we're playing soccer, these kids will kick me in the shins. They'll kick me where it counts. They just are targeting me. And he's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not being obnoxious. And he said it's been going on for a while. And then I'm getting mad because I'm thinking back over the last few months and how hard we've been on him.
Right.
Because of his behavior. But really, he was dealing with some internal things that we had no way of knowing. And so I said, you know what, Connor, number one, I'm so sorry that this is what you've been dealing with and I didn't know about it. Number two, you need to feel the freedom to stick up for yourself, to stand up for yourself. Mm-hmm. These kids are kicking you. I didn't want to be punch them in the face, but that's what I felt like.
Because you were going to do that, right? Yeah.
So, but you stand up for yourself, bud. You don't have to take that. And I said, if they kick you in the shins, kick them back, Yeah. And
do you think he felt pressure, he shouldn't be doing that, or
Yeah.
Because I know some kids, they would immediately punch back. But do you think it was that compassion in him that was?
Well, that's what I thought. And I was surprised that he didn't stick up for himself, And so I thought, I feel like if you've been pushed to the limit, that at some point you're like, I'm done, and I'm gonna kick you back.
Mm-hmm.
And he started crying, and he said, "But the problem is it's a group of girls." And I was like, and he just knew that he could not retaliate to a group of girls.
Right.
And hit them or kick them. And so he just kept taking the brunt of all this bullying behavior. Right. And he was embarrassed, that these girls kept doing this to him. I mean, isn't that so mean?
Girls are the worst. Man, that is. But he was trying to still be a good guy. I mean,
yeah. And middle school, and what I've discovered with my two who've gone through middle school is friends change so much, and friends mean everything,
Right,
and
right.
so he felt alone in this. He felt embarrassed in it. He didn't want to reach out to a teacher. It's just, he just felt so alone. And I felt so guilty for not knowing about it and picking up on it, but just, it was more so I was just super frustrated with his behavior and who I thought he was becoming, which was not true. And, so often I just wish we could look into the future and see how awesome our kids are and just rest in that. I look back to when Connor was 5 and his sensitive heart and how he loved others. That's the core of who they are. Yeah. As they get older, you don't see it as much, but that's who they are. And to remember that when behaviors start to change, that there's probably more, now hindsight.
Sure.
And so we sought out some counseling for him and just to give him practical tools on how to deal with this. There at his school, they had a camera on the playground. And so I was able to kind of step in and intervene and let the school know that this is happening. And so they were able to keep an eye on it. And eventually it all stopped, but that was a super hard year for him.
Yeah.
And I wish we could go back and redo that year.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of things I wish we could redo, but that is probably one of the toughest moments as he started getting older and becoming more independent, from his parents, that he wasn't as open to share those things with us.
Right. So once you were talking it through with him, trying to do practical tools, did you face any sense of him being like, no, we can't, don't, let's leave?
Oh yeah. He did not want me to intervene or call the school. So, I mean, I feel like there are those moments where you're like, I know you don't want me to, but I'm going to.
Right.
And a lot of times I feel like it's okay to respect, obviously it's okay to respect your child's wishes and that, but I felt like because this had been going on for so long and how upset it had, the behavior that it was bringing out, that I felt like I had to intervene. I was glad that they were able to kind of nip it then and there, and it didn't continue. And I don't know if it didn't continue because Connor was had a boldness about him to tell him to stop, and felt like he had our support. But it did stop, and I'm so thankful because I know there are a lot of kids who walk through that, and it's continuous for years. And so I'm grateful it was just that 1 year.
Wow. So, yeah.
Yeah. I do want to say that during that time, I felt like I had no idea how to parent a kid going through all those behavior changes. And I talked to so many people, and I would talk to the older women at church. And, there's one woman who had raised 7 kids. And I was like, how did you parent your kids through all these hard times? And I just felt like I could not get answers. And I felt so discouraged. How am I going to get through these next few years? I do not know what I'm doing. And so I felt like that year and moving forward, but that year was the first time I felt like I had to totally trust Jesus in this. There's a verse in James in the Message version paraphrase, and it says, if you don't know what you're doing, pray to the Father. He loves to help, and he won't be condescended on. And I just felt like I don't know what I'm doing. And so I don't have anything to lose but to pray and just trust that he is going to get me through, because this advice that I'm getting from everyone, like, I just feel like I'm hitting a wall every time.
Yes.
And that was really the beginning of like me being dependent on Jesus for all my parenting hard moments and decisions. And I'm a Enneagram 9. I heard you guys talking.
Hey, girl.
Enneagram alert.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I am a total peacemaker, and it is so hard for me to like argue with my kids or like stand firm in what I know is right, because I just want to be like, oh, you want to go do that? That's fine. I don't care if you go and stay in a hotel and you're 16 with your friends. No big deal.
Right. Whatever.
You know, I know it's wrong. I know that should not happen, but I don't want the fight. I want the peace. And so I am constantly saying, God, I don't know what I'm doing, and I need your spirit to lead me, because I cannot do this by myself.
Sure.
I haven't experienced that in the teenage mode yet, but definitely as a mom of newborns, I felt like you have this expectation that somehow, like, because we are women and it's supposed to be this instinct that
came
we
out of you.
know how to parent, or we know how to care for this child, that can feel like so much pressure. And like, just even asking for help makes you think, oh, I'm the only one that doesn't know how to do this. Everybody else. I remember reading a book. Oh, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was about breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And how just everyone assumes that you know how to do this thing, and that it's going to be easy and glorious, and you're going to bond with your child. It's going to be so magical. But really, it's really stinking hard.
Yeah.
And you have to be like committed to it and get help, and, you know.
But even the times I was big on like going to the classes and doing the weigh-ins and all that kind of stuff with all the kids. I did that. And I think it was that like constant need of, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Are they getting enough? All that stuff. But even when you're aware nobody knows, I still had in my mind, but if I go to the class, there will be a person who will be able to do the math on this and tell me exactly what to do. And that's not the case either. So even when you're willing to admit, I don't know, it's like, you just have to accept there are no real, concrete, quantifiable answers.
And what works for one kid may not work for the next kid.
Nope.
There's no consistency in parenting.
Yeah. To me, the best thing you did in that story is your first response of saying, well, first of all, Connor, I'm so sorry. Like just entering in
that empathizing with them. I think that's huge in parenting.
I had an experience. It's been a few years ago, and I can't tell you how old the kids were. I think Anna was maybe 2 or 3, and Soren then would have been like 5 or 6, something like that, 6 or 7. We were at Chick-fil-A in the Playland area, and I know they say you're supposed to be in there with your kids, and I'm normally, watching through the glass, like most
by
people.
That door.
And I'm watching Soren start crying at the top of the slide, but I don't really know what's going on. So long story short, what I realize is there's a kid who's kind of been, they're little, so bullying, air quotes.
Yeah.
You can't see my air quotes, but bullying her and won't let her down the slide. And Anna decided to punch the kid in the face. And Soren didn't want to go back in there because there was the mean boy. And I had a little bit of a tension of, well, which one do I correct? Because they each needed a little bit of the other. But yeah, you gotta, that's a hard thing to figure out. Like how much is too much to take?
Yeah.
And obviously when it has started to affect who your child is and their behavior over time, that's a big red flag.
Yeah. And that's a great reminder for all of us that I've heard that said before, who you are when you're little, like sometimes when you kind of lose yourself or you're having a career crisis, it's so helpful to ask the family that you can trust and that knew you, or think back or look back if you had journals or whatever, and be like, who and where are my natural instincts and tendencies? And that really does tell us a lot.
Yep. It does.
Well, let's hear your story. Let's hear your one you want to remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was thinking through stories that I want to remember, and the stories I want to remember and never want to forget the feeling are when for my three boys, it's not one story. It's kind of three different of when we found out we were pregnant with our three boys. Okay. So the first one, first of all, I was 21 when we got married. So I was a baby. A baby.
A baby having a baby.
Baby having a baby. So we got married when I was 21, and I was 23 when I got pregnant with Connor.
Okay.
So we thought, oh my gosh, we've got all the time in the world. We're going to wait at least 5 years. Well, I was super naive to how the times of the month and your cycle and what days you can get pregnant. And so, so we go on this houseboat with Matt's family. All right.
Okay.
Matt has 5 siblings, and they're all married except for one. And so it's Matt's parents, really close quarters. And so we're newlyweds, and we're like, let's just go to our room.
The love boat, the houseboat is a rockin', don't come a knockin'.
Yeah, it was the Love Boat on Dale Hollow Lake.
Oh yeah,
because we joked about naming Connor Dale Hollow. So we didn't.
My son, Dale Hollow.
Yeah. So I remember saying to Matt, well, day 14 we can't do anything, but every other day we can.
No time wasted. Okay.
Right. So and I had not been on birth control because it would made me feel funny, kind of off. And so I was like, I am not going to do this. And so fast forward a couple months, and I don't know anything about being pregnant, what the symptoms are. I'm not even thinking that way. And we're working, we're youth pastors at a church. And so I take our group of girls to a bed and breakfast, and we have a girls' weekend. And I remember I slept on the floor that weekend because there weren't enough beds. And it hurt so bad to lay on my stomach. My breasts were so tender, but I didn't think anything about it. I was just like, that weekend I get home.
This hard.
Yeah. This Airbnb, bad reviews.
So we go shopping, and we're at Best Buy, and I'm sitting on an end cap, and I fall asleep. And
oh my gosh.
I'm exhausted because I'm pregnant, but I don't know it. And so I realize I'm late, with my period, and I say something to Matt, and we're not thinking, we're just like, no way. And he goes, the night before I took my pregnancy test, Matt goes, I sure hope you're not pregnant because we are not ready for this. And I was like, yeah. So the next morning is Sunday, and he is at church early, and I'm at home, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna take a pregnancy test. So I go to the store, buy a pregnancy test, come home, and right away it's positive, and I am freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, just said we are not ready for this. Right. He is gonna be so mad, which is funny that I'm thinking he's gonna be mad, but so carrying this all through church, and finally church is over, and we're walking through the halls, and I'm like, I have got to talk to you right now. And I pull him aside into a Sunday school classroom, and I start bawling, and I'm like, boy. I'm pregnant. And, Rob, that's awesome. And I'm like, no, it's not. You said we're not ready. And he's like, this is awesome. He's like, do you understand what a gift this is? And it was a sweet moment, but we totally panicked. Like, oh my gosh, we lived like an hour and a half away from my parents, which it felt like 20 hours. And so we within that year, we moved back home, and we felt like we needed.
Right. You were in Ohio, right? At that
we were in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah. And we moved back home, and Matt started working for my parents, and it's just like life crisis. But during that time when we moved back home, we were in church, and a woman walked up to me, and she's like, I know that you are so young. And she said, but I just want to tell you, I really feel like I need to share with you that this child is going to be extraordinary.
Oh, wow.
And Yeah, she wrote it down on a piece of paper. I just have like tucked that away in my heart all these years.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I know I'm his mama, but he is an extraordinary kid. There's just something really special about him. And that meant the world to me because as a 23-year-old pregnant with a baby on the way, I just was like, how am I going to do this? That was a really special time for us. And Connor was born on Easter Sunday. So I look back on that time and just think about the chaos that we felt. But I mean, I'm so thankful that that we did get pregnant then. We were like young parents. And so then moving on to my next child, a couple of years later, I got pregnant, but we had a miscarriage. And that was really hard. It was a little bit later. I was about 10 weeks when I found out. And so I had to have a DNC. And so with that baby, I was to be due at Christmas. And so, as Christmas time, as the holidays approach, it's just heavy. I think about, this is such a special time of year, and my birthday is at Christmas. And so I thought, oh, that would be so special, to have that, share that with this baby. And we had been trying to get pregnant the last few months of that year, and we weren't getting pregnant. And the other 2 pregnancies had just happened, and so I was like, what is wrong? And so I was discouraged. And on Christmas Eve, I took a pregnancy test, and it was positive.
Oh, wow.
And I felt like it was just God's goodness to us that's when our baby was to be due. And then to have that sweet gift of a pregnancy with Calvin was so special. So our third one, we were not going to have any more babies, and had kind of made the decision that we weren't going to, but didn't do anything about it. And I remember telling my husband, we were young still, so we were in our early 30s, and I was like, well, this is how quirky I am. I said, I don't want you to get a vasectomy yet. I want to wait till you're 35, because if something happens, I want to be able to remarry and have a family.
Babies, right.
I feel like that whoever he would marry would want to have a family with him. And so he was like, you're crazy, but
I'll thoughtful, man.
So we didn't. And obviously we got pregnant, and I was not, obviously, again, not thinking that we were going to have another baby. And I noticed I was late, and I was like, oh no. So I told Calvin was with me, and I was like, hey, we're going to go to Walmart and get some special medicine. And so I got a pregnancy test. And so we came home that morning, and I kind of thought, I'm probably not pregnant, but I'm just going to do this anyway. And so I took it, and it was positive. And again, I freaked out. And Calvin was like, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing. And I grabbed my phone, and I ran outside, and I called my best friend, Jill. You guys know Jill.
Yeah.
And I am like bawling, and she's like, what's wrong? What's wrong with your dad? Like she thought like,
oh no.
Right.
My dad, because his health was, he's diabetic, and she thought something had happened. And I was like, it's not my dad, it's me. I'm pregnant. And she was like, it's a baby. And I was like, you're so right. She's like, this is such a gift. And I'm like, you're so right. And I was like, but Matt is not going to be thrilled about this. And I'm like, hey,
do you think you could tell him for me?
Right.
Yeah. Hey, can you come home? I really need to talk to you. This is like in the middle of a work day. And so he's like, okay. And I'm like, kind of. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, I really need you to come home. And so he comes home, and he comes in the house, and he's like, what is going on? And I'm like, right. I need you to sit down. And he's like, what are you about to tell me? And I said, I was like, I am pregnant. And he looked at me, and he goes, it better be a girl. And he goes, no, you're not. No, you're not. And I was like, I am. I really am. And he's like, no, you're not. And I was like, babe, I am. And I showed him the pregnancy test. So all day we're just kind of walking around in this like fuzzy, like cloudy, oh my gosh, we had just moved to Arizona. How are we going to do this? We don't have family around. This is hard. And so, I mean, when so we didn't find out what we were having with Charlie. And because I felt like I don't want to be sad if they tell me it's a boy. Isn't that terrible? I thought I don't want to be sad if they tell me it's another boy.
Sure, yeah.
And so we didn't find out. And plus we had found out with our other two, and we thought that would be fun just to be surprised. So Charlie's born. I knew before he was born that he was a boy, but Matt holds him up and he goes, "It's a boy." And the second I held that baby, I think maybe the first thing I said to him was, "I'm so sorry. I wanted you to be a girl." And this little boy has brought so much joy to our family. He's been, there is a song, I think it might be by Carrie Underwood. I'm not sure, but it's "Everything I Never Knew I Always Needed" or something like that. And that's how I feel about Charlie. He is everything we never knew we needed. And, he just like completes our family. And, so those moments are ones that I never want to forget.
He is precious.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And the way you speak of all of them is precious. Oh, love it.
Well, Robin, thank you so much for sharing all of your stories with us today. And this is going to be a fun note to end on because it does kind of deal with, I guess, a lot of early motherhood stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is how we're ending each segment of the episode. Okay. This is called the mom seat. And it's kind of like a hot seat.
The hot seat? Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you two options. And you have to give us your gut instinct answer right away.
Okay.
All right.
I'll do
Are
my
you ready?
best. Yeah, I'm terrible at these things.
Here we go.
I am terrible at them too, but
yeah, Sarah really was horrible. We did it with her.
Okay. Pretty low though, so
it's all right. Okay, here we go. Disposable or cloth?
Disposable.
Bottle or breast?
Both.
Pinterest.
Can I do both?
No, but I will let you.
Yeah.
Okay. Pinterest mom or Amazon Prime mom?
Amazon Prime.
Jeans or yoga pants?
Jeans.
Top knot or ponytail?
Ooh. Top knot.
Home birth or hospital?
Hospital.
Chore chart or managing chaos?
Chore chart.
Gender reveal or find out when it pops out?
Both.
Instagram?
We never did gender reveals. Like that was before our time.
Yeah.
True. But
things are totally different these days.
Yeah. Whether or not you would find out.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Instagram or Facebook?
Instagram.
Lullabies or sound machine?
Ooh. We did both, but I love lullabies.
I was going to say you're a singer.
Yeah.
Okay. 5 servings of veggies per day or month?
Month.
President of the PTA or I'll send in some goldfish?
I'll send in some goldfish.
Bubble bath and a good book or girls' night out?
Ooh. Both.
Weekly meal plan or McDonald's drive-through?
Oh, I want to say weekly meal plan because I think that's best. But being a working mom, I go through the drive-through a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Homeschool or go to school?
Go to school.
In your home, are you freebird or robed up?
Robed up. I've got 3 boys.
Yeah.
Favorite parenting resource?
I really, really love parenting we did parenting teens with Love and Logic. So basically the Love and Logic.
Okay.
It's so good. I mean,
I never even heard of that.
Yeah. We'll have to look that up.
Teens. They also have just parenting with Love and Logic, but as we started having teenagers, it was a great book for us. Ooh. Really helped change our parenting.
All right. You guys are messing up the hot seat.
Totally worth more than one word though.
Favorite place to buy clothes? Kids clothes.
Oh, kids clothes. Old Navy.
All right. And you have completed the mom seat. Good job.
You guys, thank you for having me.
You know what?
I really am so honored that you even thought of my name.
It was awesome. We love you. And I love that you said both because it just goes to show that you're well-rounded.
This is where my 8 wants to come in and control things and say, pick one, ladies.
I can't do it.
One.
That's why you have a co-host.
We balance each other.
I love you guys and love what you're doing and respect you both so much as mamas and just as friends. So thank you for having me.
Same to you, friend.
Well, we hope you will come back next week on the Momnesia podcast, where we're going to share more stories before Momnesia sets in and we forget it all. Have a great week.
Today's episode of Momnesia was recorded at Grace Church in Noblesville, Indiana, with original music by Phil Larson. Make sure to check out Grace's podcast, Between Sundays, and Phil's music at Spotify or iTunes.